Good day, subscribers. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am Jeremy. This is the Financial Education Channel, and today we're talking a little personal finances. We're talking buying a car versus leasing a car. And I'm not here today to give you guys a biased opinion on which one's better, because honestly, it depends on what situation you are in. Which is better? Sometimes it means buying a car is a better option for you. Sometimes it means leasing a car is a better option for you. So I have 10 different points I came up with, and I want to kind of talk about with you guys and kind of compare and contrast so you guys can make a judgment call for yourself on what's better next time you go to buy a car or lease a car, and what option is best for you. So let's go ahead and get right into this. So the first category we're talking about today here, guys, is ownership. So if you go to obviously buy a car, you are becoming the owner of that car. Even if it's on a loan, you're still the owner. Of course, if you don't pay off that loan, your car is going to get repossessed. But at the end of the day, you own that car. A lease, when you lease a car, whenever that lease contract is up, which usually they last around 3 years, whenever that lease contract is up, you have the option to buy that car at that time, or you can just give up the keys and say bye-bye, bye-bye car. So that's the kind of the difference. So if you want to own that car at the end of the day, buy it. If you want to let the keys go and say, you know what, I don't want to deal with that car anymore, then leasing's a great option for you. Let's talk about upfront costs. So on buying, upfront costs, they include the cash price if you're paying cash, or of course you got to make a down payment generally. You have taxes, registrations, and other fees. Leasing, they typically include the first month's payment. So you gotta make that first month's payment. No different than if you're renting or buying a house. Generally, you always have to make the first month's payment. You have to do a security deposit. Usually, the security deposit is a few $100s. Sometimes on some cars, it can even be a few $1,000s. It really just depends. You have to make a down payment, which is generally $2,000 to $3,000, unless a company is really desperate, and sometimes they'll do no down payment if you have a certain credit score. So that's an option for you. And then of course taxes, registration, and other fees, and that's all on upfront costs, guys. So next up, let's go ahead and talk about monthly payments. So loan payments are usually higher than lease payments because you're paying off the entire purchase price of the vehicle, plus interest, plus finance charges, taxes, fees, and all that crap. Now, lease payments are usually a little lower because you're mainly just paying for the depreciation of that vehicle. So that car or truck or whatever you're leasing, it's going to depreciate over time, right? Over those 3 years or whatnot. So you're just kind of paying the money on that car just to pay off the depreciation on it. So that is basically the monthly payment situation. Early termination. On early termination, obviously, if you can sell, trade your car at any time when you buy a car, whether you buy it a week and you want to go trade it in for something else, you have that option out there, or you want to keep it for 10 years, you have that option. It's no contract or anything, but obviously you need to make all your payments if you have it on a loan, otherwise it's going to get repossessed. So I can't emphasize that enough. Now, if you're leasing, at the end of that lease, if you end that lease early, you're going to have a early termination fee, which is generally substantial. It's literally almost as much as if you just kept the car and made all those lease payments. So you guys got to really read that contract. If you think you might not be able to afford that lease, you might not want to sign it, because you can get screwed really bad if you need to get rid of that with a huge, huge fee. So it's just like renting an apartment. Generally, sometimes if you want to end your lease early, they charge you for 2, 3, 4 months rent, and it's like, oh my gosh. So same thing with leasing a car, guys. So that's something to really watch out for. Next up, vehicle return. You'll have to deal with selling or trading your car whenever you want to get rid of that vehicle, right? If you buy your car. If you buy your car, you got to deal with all that at the end of the day. So at some point, you're probably going to want to get rid of it. You have to be the one to deal with that. However, if you lease a car, you return the vehicle at the end of the lease, and you pay any end of lease costs, and you walk away from that car. Or sometimes you have the option to buy it if you want to buy it at that point. But generally, you just turn in the keys, and that's that. So now, future value. When you buy a car, the vehicle will depreciate, but its cash value is yours to use as you like, of course. Now, a lease, on the plus side, the future value doesn't affect you financially. On the negative side, you don't have any equity in the vehicle. So when you go turn in that car for a lease, if it depreciated half its value in those 3 years, who cares? It's not your car. It's not your car. Who cares? But at the same time, you don't have any equity built in that vehicle, whereas if you were making all those payments on your own car, you would have some equity in that car at that point in time. Mileage. Mileage is a big one. This is a very big factor for you guys. If you buy a car, obviously you can drive as many miles as you want. So if you drive 20,000 miles a year, that's perfectly fine. Now, when you lease a car, usually they limit the miles you drive between 12,000 and 15,000. So if you're not a huge driver, if you don't have a very long commute to work and you don't have to drive out of state all the time and things like that, then leasing might be a decent option. But if you drive a ton, leasing can really hurt you because you will have to pay a ton of extra charges that will get tacked on if you drive over that 12 to 15,000 miles per year. You're going to get a ton of charges tacked on unless you negotiated up front a different type of price or something like that. But of course, they're going to jack the price way up on you at that point. So that is something to really take into account buying and leasing a car. Next up, we have excessive wear and tear. So if you buy a car, you don't have to worry about wear and tear, but it could lower your vehicle's trade-in or resale value, of course. Now, most leases hold you responsible. You'll have to pay extra charges for exceeding what is considered normal wear and tear. So this is a big one. If, say, you got a couple of little kids or whatnot, and those kids are, playing back there and they spill a soda or this and that, you got to watch every little move they make in that car, because over time, if things get messed up in that car, you're responsible for it, even though you're just leasing that car. So if the seats really get banged up and things like that, that company could then come at you and say, hey, you know what? You got to pay to fix that. That's going to be $500. This is going to be $700. So you got to really keep that car in as good a condition as you possibly can while you're leasing it. The end of term. So buying a car at the end of the loan term, typically most car loans are 4 to 5 years. Some are 7 years, depending on how long you do it for. You have no further payments. You have built equity that can help you pay for your next vehicle. And when you lease a car, at the end of the lease, which is typically 2 to 4 years, most are 3 years, you'll have to finance the purchase of another car, or you'll have to lease or buy another car, of course. So that's another thing to take into account at the end of the day. Last is, this is another big one, especially for a lot of you guys that are kind of in the 20 to 30-year-old bracket. You guys like to customize cars. If you buy a car, even if it's on loan, you can customize that vehicle as you would like. Now, as far as leasing a car, most in the contracts say you can't really change much of anything at all. And if you do change anything that is allowed, it needs to be changed back when you go ahead and turn in that car. So if you want to get the windows super dark tinted, if you want to get a special kind of rim on that car, all these things are not allowed in the contract. If you want to put a supercharger in that car or do a different type of exhaust system, all these types of things, when you're leasing a car, that is not allowed. Generally in the contract, it explicitly says you cannot do that. And the things that it says they are okay, generally they want them changed once you get back. Even if you think it's something that adds value to the car, even if you put in a $2,000 supercharger or something and a $1,000 exhaust system, they don't want that at the end of the day, because it's their property basically. You're just leasing it. You're just there to borrow it. No different than if you live in an apartment, right? If you live in an apartment, you could go changing all the windows and all the doors and make everything so nice. But at the end of the day, you're not allowed to do that. And if you do that, you need to get it changed back before you leave, even if it does add value, because they don't care. They want everything uniform the same way, because you're just there borrowing it. I hope these 10 factors helped you guys understand, the difference between buying a car versus leasing a car. There's some situations, buying a car, some are better for leasing. I've only bought cars in my life, but that doesn't mean I won't lease cars in the future. It just depends on your situation, guys. I hope this video helped you tremendously today. And if you're watching this, you have not subscribed, you may want to. I talk about personal finance in this channel like we did today. We talk business. I'm an entrepreneur. I give entrepreneur type tips on this channel. And we also talk a lot about the stock market on this channel, and I break down stocks every single week. Thank you for watching, guys, and have a great day.